LUE's at. Once a disinformation agent, always a disinfo agent. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case with LUE because he seems so genuine, but there are
Yeah.
people out there who have been in LUE's inner circle that say that LUE is full of shit. Now,
Oh,
I am
yeah.
only saying what I've heard, and obviously everyone knows who I'm talking about. That's Jeremy McGowan, right? I talked to Jeremy before I did this show, and I said that I was going to put him out there because he wrote an article about LUE and what he knows about LUE and remote viewing, because apparently LUE is a remote viewer. Um,
That's what I've
and
heard as well.
yeah, it's something that he learned after becoming interested in the topic. And like, who's this? I mean, you're sitting right next to me. You're a remote viewer, right?
Yep.
I've seen your skills put onto the test. I know that there's something to it. So Jeremy, I don't think does
Yeah.
think that there's anything to it. So he wrote this article basically saying that Lou's been tricked into thinking he has superpowers, and he is out there kind of spitting information out as whoever told it to him wants, right? So
Mm.
again, this like disinformation, quote
Yeah.
unquote. Do you
I think
think that
there
that's
is.
what we're dealing with?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think that's what we're dealing with is disinfo?
No, I like as far as remote viewing goes, absolutely not. Because I mean, so I read most of the article, Jeremy's article there that you sent me, and I didn't have time to
Yeah,
get through it
I'll
all
pull it up.
before this, but the his the argument he makes, I think, is that the CIA is sneaky. They did MK Ultra, and so that's what remote viewing is too. And I mean, my rebuttal to that would be no. MK Ultra was MK Ultra. Remote
Mhm.
viewing was its own secret thing. Like it definitely was a secret program. And he kind of tends to focus on Stargate, which was the last remote viewing program, like official one. But there was a bunch of programs before Stargate. There was Grill Flame and Center Lane, and I think some others too. But it was going from I think Stargate was the 90s, like it was 90 to 95 or something like that. And then there were previous programs before that, and I'm not an expert on the history. I don't have all the points to rattle off here, but um, it was ongoing for 20 years, and I remember hearing, I don't know if it was Skip Atwater or Ed May or one of those guys, but the one of the people who was sort of involved in the administration and working with the agencies and stuff, and they said they had something like an 85% return customer rate among the agencies that they were doing work for. Just today on Twitter, my buddy Daz Smith posted something about it was like a redacted document from the NSA talking about their experience working with the remote viewers. And it said, we worked on 3 different projects, and then that was blacked out. And then it kind of went into what their discussion of those projects was. And they said, generally speaking, we got actionable, useful information, and we were happy with the results. And that was, I think, on Center Lane, which was one of the ones before Stargate. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. The idea that the focus on psychic stuff was they were tricking people into believing they were psychic. Like, I mean, Joe McMoneagle was a natural clairvoyant, and he just really what this is. Remote viewing is just putting a framework around natural psychic abilities that we all have access to. Not everybody has developed these abilities because, I mean, the only reason I didn't get into this earlier was because I didn't even realize it was possible. Um, I think most people don't realize that it's possible,
Mm.
but all it is intuition. It's putting remote viewing is putting a framework around intuition and using it to effectively extract data from non-local sources.
To Pat, So Medium is where Jeremy puts everything. I don't know how, if it ended up on The Intercept, then it came from Medium. Because at least Jeremy sent it through to me through Medium, because he knows I'm interested in this whole thing. And then listen, McGonagall, there is something. I mean, the stories that guy tells. He was recently on Danny Jones, and I remember he was telling a story about how there's a missing boy, right? And the cops or some whoever called him, the authorities called him, and they were like, "We need your help locating this missing boy." And he was like, "It's 3 a.m. Why are you calling me?" You know, like, okay. You know, did his thing. He's like, "All right, he's at the top of this hill. Like, go there, yell his name, and he will come. Don't wake me up." Click. They rang him again. Said the officer said that that a young boy under 11 would never seek high ground. He would stay in place or find somewhere close to him. And Joe said, "Follow my instructions." Click. And then they said to follow the instructions. They went up to the top of the hill, yelled the name. There happened to be a house at the top of the hill. The kid was right there. They called Joe back, said, "Hey, we found him." Joe was like, "Where'd you find him?" They were like, "Right where you said he was." Click, went back to bed.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
dude,
if you get woken up at 3 a.m, you're going to be in a pretty good state to do psychic stuff, because you're going to be in that kind of subliminal or that liminal state between wakeful and sleep. So that's probably why he smashed that one out of the park.
right.
He's pretty good at what he does, for sure. He's an OG, but
yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't heard that story.
But to say remote viewing's bullshit is bullshit in itself. So I don't agree with Jeremy here. I agree with Jeremy.
I would suggest that perhaps he hasn't likely tried remote viewing, because I was a skeptic before I came into this. But when I first heard, like, I was introduced to this through the documentary Third Eye Spies, and that documentary, at the end of it, I was just like, I got to try this. Like, that was my reaction to hearing about the reality of remote viewing. And you know, I tried it and it worked quite well. It turned out I had kind of a natural affinity for it, and I think that's just because I've had a lifetime of doing other creative stuff. And you know, I think intuition is a creative process as much as anything else. And again, just remote viewing is putting a process, like a procedure, a protocol around harnessing intuition for the purpose of acquiring specific information. And it's well designed, and it was designed well before the Stargate project, which was the focus of this article. It was, you know, back in the 70s, when Ingo and Hal and Russell Targ and everybody else at SRI was developing these procedures. And so in the article, he talks about things like, you know, how, it's not scientific because they don't focus on the misses. They only focus on the hits. But some of the research that's been done in developing remote viewing shows that, you know, if you're, and this is, at least from what I've seen, it is more particular to like the associative remote viewing, the binary choice stuff. But if you think of it this way, even if remote viewing is just basic precognition, and you're precognitively sensing a photo you're going to see in 10 minutes or whatever, if you are only shown the right photo after that and not the wrong target, you're gonna do better. Because if you have to subconsciously discern between two different targets, you're going to get a better result if you're not shown both of them. So I mean, there's an app called RV Tournament, which shows you both, and you know, people complain that that's not a good protocol, or not a good way of doing it. But you know, the idea that the reinforcement of good results was some kind of manipulation, like I don't agree with that at all, because you know it's like training in anything, really. Like if I'm doing an engineering project, I'm not gonna give the contractor my rough sketches to build something from. I'm gonna refine them and get them to the point where I've got a final design that I'm happy with and that I know is going to work. You know, it also sort of to the point of, you know, so a lot of the data is vague. Well, yeah, of course it is, because the first few pages of any given remote viewing session, you're capturing those high level vague details, and then you're drilling down to the core of it as you get deeper in the session, as the signal gets stronger, as you connect more with the target. That's been my experience, and I mean that's really how it's designed. You start by scraping that high level data to connect to the target. You make contact, and then you dig deeper. That's the whole process. That's the whole procedure. So of course, a lot of the data in any given session is going to be, you know, either nebulous and kind of yes, kind of no. But you need to look at any given session as a whole. And usually it's the summary at the end of the session that kind of sticks out as, okay, this is where maybe some actionable data is going to be, because that's where you say, okay, these are the tangible things that I know are here, that feel important to me as the viewer. This is the other thing too. It's very subjective. It's a subconscious process, and each viewer is going to get different results given the same target, because they're filtering that information through their own subconscious mind. So, you know, all their experience, all their emotions, all their everything is contributing to whatever it is their process is. Just like any creative process. Like if I'm playing music on stage, the way I play is going to be different than another bass player, because of the influences that I have on my music, you know. So
Right.
he's looking at remote viewing, I think, as this kind of weird thing, but like I don't know, I don't think it's that weird. I think it's just another creative process.
All right. So, but you don't think that it is a little weird that we see the same people all the time wherever there's money? Like whenever a contract like this is given out by the
Yeah.
government, right? We see the same people: Hal Puthoff, Kit Green, Bigelow. It's the same faces.
Yeah.
All
And I
it
think
doesn't
that's
strike you
because
as odd.
it doesn't, because the
Ingo
people
Swan,
people specialize in certain things, right? So
right?
these happen to be the people that decided to specialize in the field of, you know, woo-woo psychic stuff and
Right.
and advanced technology and UFOs and so on. So if you've got, so Hal Puthoff, for example, you know, him and Russell Targ were both laser physicists, I believe, and they went from that world into studying all this esoteric remote viewing stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking too much. My throat's getting all scratchy again. But
Okay.
you know, they had like 20 years of experience with remote viewing, with the remote viewing programs, and that experience would obviously be beneficial to leverage for additional research into similar phenomena. So I don't think it's weird. I just think it's like that's what those guys' career trajectories are. You know, it's as weird as, you know,
Me being
me
here.
me doing water resource projects, because I studied water resource engineering and have worked in that field for a long time. You know, it just happens to be that the topic itself is a weird topic overall, and there's very few people that specialize in that stuff because it's so kind of, you know, off the beaten path, I think.
Right.
And even now, like there's tons of people that as hobbyists kind of look into remote viewing and try it out and study it and just do it because they're interested in it. I know hundreds of people that do that. You know, I mean, there's a whole Discord and subreddit about remote viewing where people will
And I
trade their
love it.
things and look into, try different research methods and share their results. And you know, it's just such a niche thing that not many people know about.